Welcome to Manifest This, Believer versus Skeptic. I'm Sharon Giroux, your resident skeptic who asks all the tough questions. And with me is Jennifer Neal, our manifesting maestro. Whether you're rolling your eyes or raising your vibration, we dive into all things manifestation, mindset, and energy from every side. Hit subscribe, settle in, and get ready for spirited debates, surprising experiments, and laughter on the journey to creating a life you love. Live. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Manifest This, Believer versus Skeptic. I'm Sharon, your friendly neighborhood skeptic, and as always, I'm joined by Master Manifester, Eternal Optimist, and one of my very, very favorite people, Jennifer Neal.
Aw, that's so nice. Yes, I'm Jennifer. I'm the believer. I am the woman who is convinced that life is a lot more magical than most people give it credit for.
Well, today's episode is interesting because we're not going to talk about $1,000,000 manifestations or dream homes or soulmates or anything like that. We're going to talk about something much smaller, but maybe much bigger. So, what if the real benefit of believing isn't actually getting the thing you want? What if the real bonus is that believing makes everyday life just a little bit more interesting?
Maybe manifestation isn't just about outcomes. Maybe it's about how you move through the day, expecting things to go right instead of assuming that they won't, or looking at a situation and wondering if it's part of the plan. Or, even if nothing dramatic happens, you're still living in possibility instead of in fear, and you have that option. Today, I'm going to argue for a case for believing and believing in the magic, believing in the miracle, believing in the possibility. So I want you to picture two people on the same flight, okay? One thinks same flight, same boat, same bedroom, whatever. One person in the room or in the flight, on the flight says, something good is going to happen today. And the other one thinks nothing is going to work out today. Jennifer, nothing ever works out for me, period. Same plane, maybe even same seat next to each other, same pretzels, but totally different experience. And I know we've talked about this before, but I want to drill down into this a little bit more today.
Well, and you know me, right? I'm a traveler and I have to put my travel pants on when I travel because as we know in the world today, things go absolutely mental when we travel. So what I'm going to push back on is, okay, isn't that just optimism? Why do we have to call it manifestation?
You know what? Sidebar on this for 2 seconds. It's so funny. Like, we all have friends that travel. We all have family that travel. And it always amazes me, the people that will say, oh, you won't believe it. Like the flights were late or they didn't connect on time or they didn't have our reservation ready. And I often say to myself, or sometimes I say to them, because I can be a bit cheeky like that. I say, you know what? If you wanted life to stay the same and be predictable, then stay at home.
Yep.
Isn't that what travel's all about? This adventure and this unknown piece?
I think too, it's your mindset going into the trips. And Jen, I mean, you're a traveler as well. I travel over crazy distances and all kinds of airports, and particularly during these times when things just, I ended up in an airport in Ethiopia of all places.
Wow.
But part of it too is looking at it and going, okay, well, now I've got a quiet space to read my book, or I get to get my steps in around this airport in Tokyo while I'm, carrying my backpack with all my laptop, computer and stuff with me. So I'm getting a little bit of extra weight in. I could sit around and complain about it, as you said, or you can use it to maximize your time on the planet.
Or maybe be optimistic. Anyway, okay, yeah, I know we got off course there for a second, but exactly, like coming back to your statement, isn't it just optimism? Why do we call it manifestation? We don't have to call it anything. Call it optimism, call it mindset, call it manifestation. But when you expect good things, you start to behave differently, is what I have found.
Okay.
And you start to notice things differently. You start to engage more or even less. And sometimes you take more chances And I'm going to tell you a couple stories today where maybe we don't expect as much out of the thing anymore and we just let it ride.
Okay, so I think that here's the other side to it. Even if it's not expecting something specific, I tend to expect the unexpected. In other words, being in a place, and I remember being on a flight from Toronto to New York and sat next to one of the most delightful human beings I've ever had the moment to have a conversation with. It's like I knew him my whole life. The flight took no time at all because we were chatting away. And I know, I mean, there are times you just don't want to talk to anybody next to you, but it was one of the most memorable experiences of a human that I'd had in a while. And it was just lovely. And I didn't expect it. And I didn't go in with, I really want to talk to someone or meet someone. And, as you say, maybe something good just happened.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you didn't force it either, like you just were open to the conversation or not, like.
Okay, so if we're not calling it manifestation, but we're calling it optimism,
Okay.
and you're saying, we ask more questions, maybe it's just, okay, hear me out for a second. Maybe believers are just really good storytellers. Maybe you remember all the times life surprised you, like I just mentioned, and you conveniently forget all the ordinary days where absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah, I want to live like that.
Okay.
I want to live like that. Like, I don't want to remember the bad things. I want to leave the past in the past and move on. But, but even then, like, wouldn't you rather live in the version of reality where something good might happen? Nobody, like, we all go to terror movies and psychological thrillers, but let's face it, we don't really want that to be our life. Right? Do you?
No, I want Technicolor and happy.
Okay, so let me tell you this story. Okay. So we have family coming into town on Thursday from Calgary, and we're so excited. They're coming to join us on our boat. We're going to take them on a little cruise around Lake Ontario. We're going to have a few hotspot sleepovers, and we're all excited. So then, of course, guess what happens? Speaking of travel, WestJet goes on strike, right?
Right.
And so, and let me tell you, the people that are traveling are big believers. I mean, they believe in the big guy, right? Like big believers.
Okay.
And so WestJet's on strike, and we're chatting back and forth, making grocery lists and packing lists, and don't forget your bathing suit texts, and as we all do it, right? And then our friends come back and say, well, if we even get there, because WestJet's on strike. And I kind of knew WestJet was on strike, or maybe I didn't even know. I think that was the first time I'd even become aware of it, because you know me, I don't watch the news. And I went, oh, she said, yeah, like we might not even get there. And I didn't even think 2 seconds about it. I just said, okay, well, whatever. And then sure enough, a week passes and we're back on the phone doing our texting back and forth thing and planning and whatnot. And she says, well, looks like we're going to make it. WestJet just stopped their strike. And for me, it never even dawned on me that they wouldn't be coming. I never in my mind thought about plan B, because as far as I was concerned, the strike wasn't even on my radar. We've talked about being on and off radar before, right?
Yeah.
So, like this is a perfect example of, and that's what I'm saying. Like my friend is a big believer, huge Christian, big believer in God, big believer in miracles, but somehow she forgot in this moment of this hit her reality that there was even a God, or that there was even another side, or a possibility, or a miracle could happen, or the universe could swoop in, whatever you want to call it. The biggest believers sometimes, I found, forget the fastest that we live in a good universe.
Okay, so I'm going to put the skeptic hat on for a second, as you know I will. How do you know that it just wasn't simply a coincidence?
I don't know that, but that's not really the point for me. Sorry to be so edgy, but that's not the point. The point is, did believing make the experience better? Like, think about it. There was a week. How many hours in a week? You could probably do this mathematician, Sharon. But like, how many hours in a week? Are you going to spend every hour in a week wondering and worrying about whether or not the trip is going to happen? Or are you just going to let it go and believe that the best thing in the world will happen for you, regardless of what it is? And we don't want to talk about that yet, right? But the best thing in the world is going to happen for you. I wasn't stressed. I wasn't bracing for disappointment. I didn't change my packing list and I didn't stop my Instacart order. I was thinking, let's see how this plays out, but I'm going to move ahead thinking that it will all work out. And that changes the experience for us as human beings.
Okay, so you're not necessarily saying that the belief bends the reality. It's that the belief changes your relationship with the reality.
Totally. 100%.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to pop in again. If we start believing that every good thing is a manifestation, doesn't the corollary have to be necessary too? Don't we then have to believe that every bad thing is our fault? And this starts to become dangerous because life happens and flights get canceled and people get sick and not everything needs to be a lesson from the universe. Sometimes life is going to life.
Well, listen, I could split down this in two ways and say I agree. But the other part of me is going to say, I don't think we manifest every bad outcome. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think we choose the story we tell about it. Okay. So, you can say to yourself, oh God, go down that dark rabbit hole. Why is this happening to me? It always happens to me. Why can't I'll never forget my dear ex-husband and I used to go to friends of his in Grimsby, Ontario. Not that it matters, but anyway, we used to go visit friends of his in Grimsby, Ontario all the time. And it was a husband and wife. And the husband was quite a partier, big partier. Friends were always coming over. And the wife, who worked shift work because she was a nurse, would come home, in the morning after working all night to an entire mess in her backyard because the partiers had been there.
Yep.
And this isn't funny, but it is kind of funny now. But somebody fell into she had dug out her own little goldfish pond and she had a little trickle of trickling water, and she dug it out herself and there was a liner in it and it was very pretty. And one of the guys fell in the pond the night before in the party. It's not funny. I totally can relate to her. Anyway, she wakes up the next day and she's like, why can't I have anything nice? That was what she said, word for word. I'll never forget it. So why is this happening to me? We can take that. We can go down that road, or we can say, what could this be making? What could this be making possible? Or I wonder what's coming next. Or I wonder why he fell in my pool. Maybe I'm supposed to have a bigger pool or a better pond. So same event, different life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So give me a little bit of a challenge. So let me get your full perspective here.
Before I give the challenge, I want to relate another story that happened yesterday.
Okay.
So, and this will hit home for a lot of people, especially people that are in business or anybody that have meaningful meetings. So my husband goes to a meeting yesterday with a very potentially big deal on the table, and he drives to the businessman's office, dresses for it, prepares for it, shows up at this office and starts chatting with this potential prospect. And they get slightly into the topic of the meeting. And then the prospect's business partner walks in the room, which everybody knows everybody because they've done business before. And it cut the conversation short because now my husband couldn't go through the entire plan of his meeting to get the prospect to the place where he wanted to, where they could be doing business together. And he came home and I said, how did it go? And he said, well, all right. And that's not like him because he's positive, super positive like me. And I said, what do you mean, all right? What happened? And he said, well, I was chatting to prospect A and things were going swimmingly. And then all of a sudden, his partner, prospect B, walks in the room and I couldn't finish my meeting. I didn't get to fulfill the reason I was there. And I said, really? I said, that's too bad. And he said, yep, but you know what? Clearly, this wasn't meant to happen today. And, big believer in God. So I'll use the word God. God's got something better planned for me. And he left it at that. So you insert universe, insert source, insert inner being, insert higher self, whatever you want to say there. Right. The point is, he said, this wasn't meant to happen today. Doesn't mean it's off the table. Just means God wants to get me a different way there. And that's what we're talking about, is this, instead of saying deal's done, totally over, as you and I remember from when we were kids, Sharon, I'm going to the garden to eat worms. Do you remember that song? Nobody likes me, everybody hates me. So yes, so that's a long way of saying, here's a quick challenge for everybody out there. Okay. So I'm going to pivot from that story to the challenge. I want everybody that's listening to think about yesterday. For me, it's 8:30 in the morning. So my day's pretty fresh still. So think about yesterday, everybody, and go through your day kind of hour by hour and think about the things you did and where you went and the conversations you had. Not a big milestone, just a normal day. What happened to you that could be interpreted two ways? Okay. So I'll give you some examples. Maybe you ran into someone unexpectedly that you wanted to see or you didn't want to see. Classic. We always talk about this. Maybe a parking spot opened up or didn't open up. Speaking of parking spots, how many times have you said to yourself, God, it'd be nice to lose 5 pounds. And then the only parking spot you can find is the one that's so far back at the Yorkdale Mall that it's almost a mile to walk into the mall. Do you think that's coincidence? I say somebody intervened and they're making you walk a little further because they knew what you wanted. Anyway, you know me, I go off topic. Okay, so parking spot opens up or doesn't open up. Maybe a text comes at the right time. Maybe you found some money in your pocket. Maybe the meeting didn't go the way you thought it would. Maybe you got stuck in traffic and someone cut you off, or maybe you avoided traffic somehow. Maybe you got a last minute invite, or conversely, another sidebar. I found out down at our yacht club that, and I know that sounds a bit pretentious, but it is what it is. Down at our yacht club, we're having a dock party shortly, and I found out there's a bunch of people on our dock that got invited to another party. We didn't even know about it. So am I going to cry in my soup about not being invited? Or am I going to look at that and say, universe has a different plan for me that night. Maybe it wants me to converse with the other people on our dock and get to know them better. And maybe somebody needs us that night. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm catching everything you're saying. Let me put this to you, because sometimes we end up with a spiral bit of thinking that goes on, and we're in that little spiral. How do you interrupt that to get to where you are?
It's hard.
No kidding.
It's a simple answer. It's hard to master. It's one of those simple but hard concepts. It's hard. I'm the eternal optimist. And even when my husband comes in yesterday and says the meeting didn't go as planned, I never myself went to the place that he did, which wasn't meant to happen today.
Yep.
Like, good on you, babe. Good on you. Cause I didn't even go there. So it's hard. It is a muscle. And like every muscle, the more you flex it, the better it gets. But if we could just, when something doesn't go the way we planned or the way we wanted or the way we thought, if we could just for a split second go, maybe there's something else coming. That's it.
Okay. So I guess the skeptic question is, as you're saying, would the meeting have happened anyway when you talk about the meeting with your husband and his partners? Or does the belief change the behavior? Do you have to smile more? Do you have to strike up a conversation? Do you stay longer than you otherwise would have? Like what is it that you have to do to move yourself into this challenge that you're suggesting?
Well, I think there's two things there that you just said. What do you have to do? 9 times out of 10, the answer is nothing. Let it go.
Yeah.
Move
that's
on
hard, right? That's really hard.
Yeah, let it go. Just let it go. Like, I'm looking at 14 things right now that I could go do, like fill up the water jugs. I'm looking at 3 empty water jugs on the boat right now. Go fill the water jugs. Like, let it go. So sometimes the answer is surrender, right? Just let it go. And the other is kind of still on the same vein. Like, how is forcing that going to make it any better?
Right. So I was just going to say, okay, so let's imagine for a second that manifestation isn't real. And let's imagine that it's all psychology. Okay. What's the downside of believing?
Well, you call it downside, but I call it upside. Like, maybe you wake up hopeful. Is that the worst thing in the world? Maybe you start expecting things to work out. Maybe you recover faster from setbacks. Maybe you stay open to possibility. I think that's a pretty great way to live. Like, wouldn't you rather live with a smile on your face? Even if you're going to end up with another bypass or segue, you don't have to spend the hours leading up to that feeling terrible.
Okay, so if manifestation is real, then
Yeah. So if it's real, then optimism isn't just helpful. I think it could be influential.
okay. So as always, we want you to give us a challenge.
So I think we already talked about the challenge. This is the challenge on steroids. But, if for 7 days, the next 7 days, if you kept a note, a Post-it note, I'm a big believer in Post-it notes. They're on my dashboard. They're on my laptop. They're in my bathroom. Put a Post-it note around your house, your apartment, your condo, whatever, and maybe call it the everyday bonus. And every night, and yes, there's work in this. You're not going to get this isn't going to happen without doing a little work, guys. So every night, maybe write down one moment that you could call coincidence or choose to see it as life working with you. So that means when the guy doesn't call, when the meeting doesn't happen, when the airline goes on strike, when the party gets canceled, when you don't get the invite, ask yourself, what is the bonus in this? Maybe there's a gift in this. Not overthinking, just noticing.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is we just need to spend more of our life expecting wonder as opposed to stuff.
Yeah, like why not?
Yeah.
And maybe believers aren't luckier. Maybe they're just paying attention with a different lens.
Well, what a powerful conversation and lots of fun as always. Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks to everybody else. We'll see you next time on Manifest This, Believer versus Skeptic.
Until next time, guys, stay open, or at least maybe try to stay curious.